Welcome back to the Uncool Show. I think we are on episode 12. I am Dylan.
I'm Nathan.
And this week we're talking about Superbad, which it's a seminal comedy classic of this generation, our generation. Why don't you give a little intro, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of my favorite comedies of all time. After I rewatched it, I was wondering if it is my favorite. Like Dylan said, it is a truly seminal comedy, and I think it's one that's going to be timeless and always rewatchable for as long as we're alive. I think that it'll be passed down from generation to generation, and no, I think it's not only one of my favorite comedies. I think it's one of the best movies of the 21st century.
Yeah,
and I love it.
I couldn't agree more. It like you said, instantly rewatchable, and endlessly rewatchable. I was actually talking to my friend Eli yesterday. He's like, "That I've probably watched that movie more than any other movie." He's like, "It's like my comfort movie. I just go to it and go to it and go to it." I know Randy has seen this movie a lot. In fact, shout out to Randy. Randy and I have a very interesting moment centered around this movie, and I always think about Randy when I watch Superbad, certain parts of it. Love you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. But yeah, it's just, I will say this quickly. In preparation for this movie and rewatching it last night, it's going to be hard to talk about just because of how dirty Superbad is.
Yeah.
I'm sure most people have seen it, but there's going to be a few people that haven't. And this is almost every scene, there's something ridiculous, something very crass in some way. So it's going to be hard to talk about certain scenes without, or quote certain moments,
right?
So to speak.
Yeah. I mean, it is a filthy script.
It is.
It's truly filthy, but it's not in a way where it's overdone or you feel like. I mean, it's just how teenagers talk in a way.
Yes.
You know what I mean? In a very heightened sense. Obviously, these kids think that they're at this time of their lives where they're going to be in all these different situations with each other, and they're acting cooler than they actually are.
Oh yeah, they're very
unpopular
because uncool people.
They have no friends.
Yeah,
it's Seth and Evan and Fogel. McLovin. But it's those three, and then the girls they're interested in, and that's it. They don't have anyone else. They basically get bullied in some parts, and
yeah, they get bullied pretty much right away.
They're outcasts.
Yeah, they are.
They're outcasts.
It's very clear they're not going to the parties the other kids are going to. The girls that they're interested in, both of them are like, "I never see you at any of these."
And then
what do you mean you like to party?
And that's when they start to overcompensate and say, "Oh well, we do our own stuff on the weekends." And then in that little sequence,
the flashback sequence is
they're just messing around during the weekend and drinking and hanging around their parents.
Embarrassing themselves. They're losers.
They're losers.
We should say, this is common knowledge to you and I. This is written by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, his producing, writing, directing, creative partner, when they were in high school.
Mm-hmm.
The characters are named Seth and Evan. Jonah Hill is playing Seth. Michael Cera is playing Evan. I touched on the filthy aspects of this movie, but there's a lot of heart to it too.
There's so much heart to this,
and we'll get into that. But I just it's going to be hard to skirt around some of this stuff, but we're going to do it. But yeah, like you said, at the height of this movie is the relationship between these two, Seth and Evan, and then Fogel is in their group as well, but he has a separate plot line that we'll get into. But again, this movie is probably the most popular comedy of the last 20 years. Would you say?
I'd say,
just in terms of public consciousness,
for sure. I mean, there's
or it's up there at the very
least. You
could
make a case for movies like, and I'm not saying these hold the same cultural value as Superbad does, because I think this movie does a little bit more artistically with the form, and I think it's very well directed by Greg Mottola.
It is,
and the script, like you said, is fantastic, and there is heart to it. But you can make a case for movies like The Hangover, Anchorman,
Bridesmaids,
Wedding Crashers. Bridesmaids is a good one.
Old School, I think
people,
huge.
For people in my generation, I bet Ted is a big one. That movie made a bunch of money and was massively successful. But in terms of like 21st century comedy, this is in the Apatow world, the
Yep.
Judd Apatow world, who produced this and has a long history and did have a history before this movie with Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg. And he kind of helped dominate this era of comedy.
Yep. Almost
And
every ancillary piece in this is related to the Apatowverse,
right.
has
And
appeared in Freaks and Geeks or something, Knocked Up or something else to that point, you know?
I think if it's not the most like culturally relevant comedy of the 21st century, it's probably like top 3. I think you
It
can't
has to be up
top
there.
3, top 5.
Yeah.
For me, it's the number 1. It's my favorite, but I could see other people. Comedy is so subjective that you could find someone on the street and say, "What's your favorite comedy?" and they'd go like other ones we said, an Anchorman, Step Brothers, something in that realm.
Cheaper by the Dozen.
Cheaper by the Dozen's a great one.
Favorite comedy of all time.
Yeah.
Uh,
Let's not forget that.
you know, Superbad also came out at a time, a time in which the hard R comedy was at its peak,
Yes.
and then almost like right after this, it started the decline.
Mhm.
There were a couple of really, really good Apatow-related comedies that came out after this that I'm sure we'll end up doing on the show. Forgetting Sarah Marshall is one that I absolutely adore and will definitely do on the show at some point.
Mhm.
But this was really, to me, the peak of that last era of hard R comedies that aren't just trying to be dumb and crass like an American Pie franchise.
Mhm.
They're like we've touched on. This is a well-made movie, a
Mhm.
well-acted movie, a well-directed, well-shot movie, well-colored movie. I mean,
No, it
it
definitely
really
is.
is. Matola, he killed this.
There's a lot of craft here, and I think that in all of the Apatow movies, there are some exceptions, but they all have a very solid sense of emotions and a very solid sense of character, and I think that that's kinda what boosts this movie up a level in
Yeah,
terms of why I love it so much. You can have the crass and it's very raunchy. They
right
can
away
also have
too. The
yeah,
first
right
line
it
of
does
dialogue.
it's
First line of
very
dialogue.
unapologetic about like
What it
what it
is.
is.
Yep.
It knows what it is, and that's a credit to Rogan and Goldberg.
Yeah.
Um, but they always make sure. And after hearing like a lot of interviews and podcasts about everyone in this Apatow world talk about their experience working with Judd, either when they're being directed by him or working directly with him in a producer role, he always makes sure to keep character first,
Yep.
last second. And I think we see a lot of modern comedies, 21st century comedies, flip that. But I love how Superbad keeps that intact.
I couldn't agree more. That's very well said. Um, you know, there's something very relatable about these characters when, as you were alluding to, when you really focus on character in any genre of movie. It doesn't have to always be a comedy or, it can be any genre. When you focus on the character, you give the audience a real chance to relate. And both of the main characters, Seth and Evan, are they're throughout the film, they're revealed to be very codependent people,
Mhm.
very insecure people. Uh, Michael Cera's Evan handles it his way. He's just a little more like, I'm, I'm, I'm kind of sensitive. I'm a dork. I'm a
Right.
dweeb. While Jonah Hill's Seth is very much trying to project the opposite of his insecurity.
Yes.
And in my life, I've met so many people. That's usually the two ways it goes in terms of how people handle those emotions. And I think grounding the characters in that right away, letting you know that they are losers, that they are getting bullied at school,
Mhm.
that they aren't going to parties, they're not getting girls. It most people can relate to that,
Mhm.
or relate to that feeling of being unwanted in some form or fashion. It doesn't always
Yes.
have to be a sexual conquest, as this movie is mainly about. To be honest with you, is these boys trying to get some sexual attention. But again, it does it in such a beautiful way. And I know it might not sound like it to somebody who hasn't seen it, but to those who have, it blurs a line that just you don't see anymore.
Right.
And again, at the heart of this movie is Michael Cera and Jonah Hill. So let's just touch on them for a moment. What crazy performances from both of them, and both grounded in reality, but both very heightened and very relatable and honest and pure and
Mhm.
childish, you know?
Absolutely.
They both run the gamut. What are your thoughts on their dynamic and what they brought to the screen chemistry-wise all this time later?
I think their chemistry is somewhat unparalleled in a way, especially with how young Michael was, especially. I know Jonah, I think he was around, it was in like 23, 22 when he filmed this. Michael was like 17,
Fresh off of Arrested.
fresh off Arrested
Off of
Development.
the original run of Arrested Development, yeah.
And with how young these guys are, obviously, young people in comedy, that's how comedy stars are born. Usually they start young. Um, but these two, their chemistry, it's like their friendship is baked into their performance in a way. Like they feel like true friends
They
in real
do.
life
Yeah.
outside of the performance, outside of the movie. And like you touched on, um, Seth is the loud, brash type, and Evan is the quiet, unassuming. But they're very similar. They're very similar in
Yeah.
ways. Like you said, they're extremely insecure. Seth hates to show it. Evan kind of wears it on his sleeve.
Yep.
But he's shy and he doesn't like to he doesn't like to show it,
It's just do
but
it.
it's
It's
just
just
kind of who it is. It's
yeah.
also just Michael Cera's look. Like
Yeah.
he's tall, slender. He looks a little
It looks
bit.
awkward.
He does look
And
awkward.
he's
That's
going through that
exactly.
he's supposed to be going through that in the movie. It's perfect casting.
It really is.
I think both of them are perfectly cast. I think
Mhm.
watching this, every time I watch it, there's another moment I find from Jonah. I'm like, man, no wonder this guy became what he became, and got Oscar love. And I mean, he is such a talented, uh, perceptive actor,
Mhm.
and the dynamic between him and Sarah, and conversely, the dynamic between those two and McLovin, played by Christopher Mintz-Plasse, uh, like you said it, unparalleled. You
Mhm.
would think these guys have all known each other for years, or at least Evan and Seth. You would
Evan
think
Seth.
that they knew each other for years. But now that I've brought up McLovin, McLovin, he became a cultural icon. Maybe you can
Yes.
touch on that a little bit, but McLovin, more so than any other character, more so than any other moment, this McLovin was the talking point of this movie.
Mhm.
So why don't you introduce that character in your own way, if you will?
Well, McLovin, you could sense within the characters Seth and Evan in the movie, they're like two-man friend group. McLovin is almost like this. I don't want to say parasitic, but kind of this like leech that like he's
Yeah,
attaching
he's
himself,
attaching. Yeah.
and he's another one of these losers at school who probably does get bullied and doesn't have much of a social life other than with these two.
Probably more
Probably,
so even than the other two.
yeah,
He's even more dweeby and more
right.
dorky and
And that's why it's
less social skills even.
and that's where also we can also go into this a little bit. That's also their dynamic within the friend group is parallel to how in real life Jonah Hill was not a fan of Christmas Miss Plus.
I'm glad you brought it up because I was gonna touch on this. Yeah, in the audition, Chris did his thing and left, and the first words Jonah said were, "Not that guy." And
Mhm.
then Seth and Evan looked at each other and, "Oh, that's the
That
guy."
has to be the guy.
And, it works perfectly. You can tell that Jonah isn't very accommodating
No, he's
in
not.
terms of how he feels about Chris as a performer, and the movie's better for it.
Mhm.
And it seems like everybody's on great terms now. That they have that fun moment, and this is the end as a threesome together, and
Yep.
it seems like it's all love. But they were very young people,
Mhm.
and Chris, from what I've heard, and I know you know this too, he just came into the audition room with a confidence and a assuredness that you need if you're going to get that role as a newcomer, of course. But
Mhm.
I think it put the other guys on their toes, and they had to
Well, because he's so
keep it up.
he's a natural actor.
Yeah.
Like, you get the sense that they plucked this guy off the street and put him in a movie, and that's McLovin.
Yep.
Like, there's just some guy out there named
And that's
McLovin
him.
that looks like Chris Mintz-Plasse that is so awkward and like with all his voice cracks and just his look and like you said before, he is the character of this movie.
Yep.
McLovin is the most iconic thing from this movie.
And the plot is actually, in a weird way, more centered around him than it is around the other two.
Yes.
They are the focuses of it, but a lot of it is like, where's McLovin? does McLovin have the fake ID? Is he gonna get an actual fake ID?
Exactly.
Are we meeting here to try to get the
Is he
booze?
arrested?
Is
Like,
he
what are
arrested?
we gonna do about the
You
booze?
know,
Yeah.
there, it's all about what McLovin is up to and whether
Yes.
his fake ID works and
The
what
Hawaiian organ donor.
and wherever that trail leads him.
Yeah.
And it I guess I can't say it's more about McLovin. I guess it's about 50-50 in terms of the bond between the two codependent friends and just the zany ride that McLovin goes on.
Well, the movie really starts when the movie hinges on McLovin's fake ID.
Yep.
You know, that's kind of the starting point after Seth talks to Jules or Emma Stone's character, and they get roped into getting alcohol for this party. And Seth is, "Oh yeah, I have a fake ID. Like we'll be all right." And then remember in that sequence, they're like in school going to all these classes, and they're like, "Where is McLovin? Like, where is he with this fake ID?
Yeah,
Like,
they're doing
we
shop
need him.
class and he's freaking out.
We
It's
need
like,
him."
I knew it. He bailed on us. I
Yep.
knew it.
They're so paranoid, especially because Seth has a lot of stake in this party, and wants to impress Jules. But McLovin, he comes in with his fake ID, and they're disgusted by it, and they think he's an idiot.
And he is.
He is stupid.
In-
McLovin is dumb.
In reality, that ID would never get you booze, but she was training for a veterinary exam.
And he gets punched.
She had other things to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And the cops, and we'll get to the cops. They're
Before
standouts
we
in this
get
movie.
to that, I guess in keeping with our tradition of giving out awards, I think my MVP is Chris Mintz-Plasse for this. I
Mhm.
think just the way he comes in and dominates, and again, like you said, the movie is hinged on him. It's hinged on the ID. When you see a T-shirt from Superbad these days, it's usually just a white T-shirt with a picture of the McLovin ID,
The ID.
the Hawaii ID. I think, especially as a newcomer, a first timer, he just comes in and does something that you're never really going to see, and you haven't really seen it since from him or from
No, I was gonna
any
say
other newcomer like really breaking in.
he came in this first movie, and that's the best thing he's ever done.
He's really good in role models. I really
He is
like
good
him in
role
that.
models.
He's good in the Neighbors franchise.
Yeah.
He's one of the sorority brothers.
Mhm.
He's a funny guy whenever he pops up, but again, nobody could craft a character for him better than McLovin. That's really what it is. If you give him a great character, he could knock it out of the park all day, every day. But McLovin is just so iconic and so well written and so unique to who he was, especially at the age of however, he was probably 17, 18 when they
Mhm.
found him.
Yep.
It really is incredible. Would he be your MVP of this movie?
Before I get to my MVP,
Yeah.
for better or worse, Chris Mintz-Plasse, even I think he has to be nearing 40 soon. He is McLovin. He'll always be known as McLovin.
Yep.
And that's probably to the detriment of his career, honestly. He's so inherently tied to this movie, and he is so iconic, and that fake ID image is everywhere, and he still gets recognized as McLovin all the time, and he's talked about that over the years, and
Yep.
I'm sure he loves it, and it's a career shining part. It's perfect. And I don't think anyone else could have played McLovin.
No.
Nobody else. My MVP, I think, is Jonah Hill.
I was so those are
I
my
think
two.
I generally
Jonah-
think it's between those two.
Jonah's he's so good in this.
You could make a case for Rogan because he writes and he's terrific in this movie.
He's
in producing.
directing. I mean, not directing. Yeah.
He's great as the cop.
Yep.
Opposite Hader, but I think it has to be Jonah. I think after the many times watching this movie, I think he is the funniest character in the movie, and I think he's kind of
incredible.
allowed to be. And I think that Rogan's writing, and so in that writing process, Rogan probably was the more brash, outspoken one of that little group, and I'm sure in the writing process, they both had a great time writing for him, and that comes through where, Jonah is cranked up to 11 in a lot of these sequences. He's so mad. He's so frenetic. He's
paranoid.
He's
doing
paranoid.
Yeah.
He's always in some sort of trouble.
Yeah.
Either internally or externally. And he has a hard time, unlike Evan, like pushing that down. It all has to come out in some unhealthy way, usually.
Yeah.
And you could tell that, this is also a role that was sort of made for Jonah. I mean, it's
It's
perfect.
perfect.
And I think I partly give them this MVP also because I don't think this is another category we'll get to. It's not his peak career moment because you can make a case for his Oscar roles and
Oh, yeah.
you know the rest of his career
And
after this
hopefully
point.
hopefully the best is still yet to
Yet to
come for
come.
Jonah. He's
Hmm.
been slowing down lately and doing other things, but, like, man, he's such a talented guy. I would love to see him get another big, meaty role, and I
Hmm.
know he will one day,
He
you
will.
know? But I'm really glad that you put because again, when I was watching it last night, I couple scenes in the back end where more emotions are coming to the forefront, and he's accusing people of bailing on him, and he has to cry a lot, quite a bit,
Yep.
towards the tail end when he's embarrassing himself and he's
Yeah.
drunk and he's falling,
Yeah.
and it's really like really great work and
Hmm.
really touching and really sweet and sad and uh, yeah, watching it last night, he's definitely the best performance in it.
I think
His
so too.
acting is incredible.
Yep.
Uh, he gives everything, and I don't think you could cast any of the top 3 differently. I'll
No,
put it
I
that way.
yeah.
All 3 of them are indispensable, but I'm glad that we have a little bit of,
Variety,
variety there.
because I think we'll say I'll just say Christmas Past will come up later in
Yeah.
another category.
Well, we we we're essentially going through the plot in our own weird way. Uh, the moment that he gets his ID and he goes into this liquor store, I think is when the movie really starts moving.
Yes.
I think the moment the punch happens,
Mhm,
the movie starts going in different ways because the boys on the outside are under the impression that he's getting arrested when the
mhm.
cops show up to actually help him out. Um, and then he gets to go on this crazy adventure with these cops that we've touched on, officers Slater and
Oh, man, what is
I
it?
have it written down actually because
Officer
I did this. Slater and Michaels.
Slater and Michaels.
Officer Slater's played by Bill Hader. Officer Michaels played by Seth Rogen, and they're my six men of the movie.
I think
Uh,
I totally agree. I think they'd be mine too.
I think I know it's kind of cheating to give it to two of them at the same time, but like you have to give it to both of them. They're incredible in this. I think it's some of the funniest writing and some of the funniest improv work you're ever
Mhm.
going to see. I think a lot of the stuff between the two of them actually wasn't written, and they're genius. Both of them
Mhm.
are comedic geniuses, and the moment that they come into the movie, not only does the movie get funnier, the stakes get a little higher,
Mhm.
but they're also very heartwarming characters. They really genuinely love
Absolutely.
McLovin, and they really do take him under their wing.
Mhm.
Uh, they know the entire time that he's not who he says he is, but he reminds them of who he
Right.
used to be, and they take him on this beautiful little weird, scary, gross
Yeah.
adventure. And they're not great cops. They're probably not
They're
even
terrible.
they're probably not even great people,
No.
to a certain extent. But they really do love this kid, and that it's a very fun part of the movie. In
Mhm.
fact, I think they're probably everything with the three of them is just the funniest stuff in the movie to me. I love the two of them in this. Their introduction scene is something that you and I
Oh my
will quote until we can't quote anymore. You know,
mhm.
they're incredible. Probably my favorite movie cops of all time.
I think pretty easily mine too. I think they're also their in their chemistry,
Is
they
incredible.
really riff well, and like you said, the improv is so impressive in their dynamic, and they're kind of the older brothers to McLovin in a way. They do take him under their wing, and you get the impression. I mean, this is basically an all-in-one-day movie.
Yep.
That's kind of where the narrative leads us, and you kind of get the feeling by the end of it, like they had a fun night with McLovin, and that's by the last they see of each other.
Ever. Yep.
That's they don't keep in contact, and they probably do, like you said earlier, they probably are reminded of their youth because these guys are losers too.
Yeah.
They're loser, idiot cops
You would
who
think that these
have
two.
nothing better to do.
You would think that the two of them could be Jonah Hill and Michael Cera's characters 30
Yes,
years from now if they both decided to become cops together.
totally.
They're doing Star Wars references and having lightsaber battles. they're talking about how their ex-wives have left them and
Yep.
done this and done that.
They talk a big game.
Much like Jonah.
Very much so. Yes, like
Yeah.
Seth.
Yeah.
And in moments where they're called to prove themselves, like in a sequence when they're called to a bar and this bum is acting out and causing just a scene, they need to take him out, like not take him out, but like arrest
him or get him under control.
They don't know what to do. They're like frazzled.
Bumbling.
They need McLovin to stop him.
Yep.
They're not good at their job.
They're not to be trusted.
I mean, when they hit Seth with their car and they're about to arrest the two of them, Seth and Evan.
After they've been drinking on the job.
They're drinking on the job.
With a child.
Yeah, exactly. Smoking cigarettes with a kid. And
with a bum in the back seat.
Yep.
I mean,
completely irresponsible people.
There's a very small part where like the radio dispatch is trying to get help to a call, and they're like, car 98, that's you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Just letting you know that like the whole department knows that these guys are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And there's another moment where like another cop is calling for backup in a very bad
screaming
for help.
There's so much blood,
and they just turn it off. And go back to their story about whatever they're talking about with McLovin. They're awful at their jobs, and they're created to be relatable. Not relatable, but they're created to be laughed at and laughed with.
Like people who peaked in high school.
Yeah,
that's kind of the energy they give off, and they want their youth back so badly, and they want to be liked by McLovin. They want to be accepted by him.
Genuinely,
only him though, because they don't like any of the other kids. They're not nice to any other kid. They crash the high school party at the very end.
And they're awful to everybody.
Yes, and when they hit Seth with their car, they're about to arrest Seth and Evan. But something about McLovin draws them in, and they just like him.
Yep.
And
well, everybody does.
Everyone does.
Other than Jonah. Other than Seth. He might not be popular. I'm sure like the other kids don't like him. But you can tell that he's just somebody that you want to root for, and people... he's awesome in that regard.
Yeah.
You said that they would be your six men?
I think I'd have to say that.
Yeah.
I think you have to give them some sort of category, and I think this is the one to do it. They come off the bench and they spend a lot of time baked into the narrative. Like you said, after this last rewatch, they're in a lot of the movie. They're the fourth and fifth leads.
100%.
Hader and Rogan. And also, I just want to touch on, Hader. Hader is one of my Hader is one of my favorite people to ever be at SNL. And he's a career that really interests me, and I'm really glad that he got his start in movies with creatives like Greg Mottola and movies like we love, like Hot Rod, and he's great in Adventureland, and also
he's terrific.
Mottola joint.
Terrific in Adventureland.
And to see where his career has gone from then with Barry, and I'm sure his other directorial ventures, he's one of my favorite people working in Hollywood, and I think that he is such a talent, and he works so well with Rogan. Yeah. And I just love those two characters, and they probably provide the biggest laughs in the movie for me personally.
Yeah,
on a consistent
they're unbelievable.
Basis.
Yeah,
they really are.
Something that I wanted to touch on is also Joe Latruglio.
Oh man.
When McLovin meets the cops and goes one way, the other two meet. I don't even know if you ever figure out what his character's name is, actually.
Francis the driver, the car driver.
Oh, yeah.
I saw that in the credits.
Okay.
Francis. Because Kevin Corrigan's character, he calls him Francis.
Yeah, he does. I was just about
they get to the adult party.
Yeah, so what happens is they're outside the liquor store. They're under the impression that McLovin is getting busted. And then a man is just driving recklessly and backs into Jonah Hill and hits him pretty hard. He flies a pretty far distance.
It's a good stunt.
It's a nice little, And there's another complete loser in this movie gets out, tries to bribe them with cash. He takes out a Velcro wallet
and gives $7.
That's all I have.
That's all I have.
That's all I have, man. And then once figuring out that these two boys are trying to meet women and go to a party and get booze, you're like, oh, you can come to a party with me.
Yep.
A party with like 45-year-olds.
Right.
Like bad people. Bad people.
Yeah.
The type of people that you wouldn't want to be in a house party with at all. But I have Joe as my Lester Bangs Award winner.
That's a good one. Yes.
I think with how little he's in the movie, maybe 10 minutes of screen time before he's beaten up and never seen again.
Mhm.
I think he is really, really funny. He's really creepy.
Mhm.
He's really attention seeking, and
Yep.
he he's like the opposite end of the coin of the cops in terms of not just narratively, but yeah, he wants the attention, and he like you guys could have sat up front with me when they're in the
Yeah.
back of his car. He's trying to get them to add him on MySpace. There's like a very, very
Desperate
creepy,
for friends.
desperate, creepy
Yes.
vibe to him.
And he has a warrant out for a totally
Totally
nonviolent
nonviolent at
crime.
crime.
Mercy Street.
Mercy Street, guys. I just wanted to bring him up because he's also the inverse of the cops, and narratively, when it branches off, it's because of Joe and Francis running into these kids.
Mhm.
And again, he's might not even be 10 minutes of script. Probably isn't.
Probably not even,
Not
no.
even might not even be 5. But I think he's just terrific in this, and he's my Lester Bangs, which again, most with the least.
Most of the least.
What would you say for that?
For mine, I would say I think this person might be, I wouldn't say in too much of the movie, somewhat in a role to going back to Almost Famous at Philip Seymour Hoffman amount of runtime, but someone whose career just exploded after this movie is Emma Stone. I think
Mhm.
that Emma Stone needs to be talked about in
Yeah, I have her
this.
circled in here.
I mean, what can you say about Emma Stone? Emma Stone is tasked with being more of the straight person in this movie in terms of, like, she doesn't have barely any laugh lines. The one time where it's probably one of the bigger laughs in the movie, I'm sure in a theater, is when this is the woman that girl that Seth is interested in, and that's their party that they're heading to near the end of the movie, and that
Yep.
they need to get the booze for, and
The whole party hinges on it.
the whole party hinges on it. And Seth is drunk and is basically professing his love for her, and they have a moment where they're like, "Oh, I think this is okay," and then Seth passes out and hits her in the face, and she has that
Very hard.
huge reaction
Yeah.
that is in the trailer.
Yeah.
It's its own little iconic moment that
Yep.
really works. And Emma Stone is one of my personal favorite actresses.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I
I
love her.
mean, for a long time now, she might be my favorite actress. Always does interesting work, and
Yeah.
she's an underrated comedy lead. You know, I think Easy A is a really
I was just
good
gonna
leading
say she's
vehicle.
so good in Easy A. I
Very
love
good in
that
Easy A,
movie
and I'm sure she got that role in big part to
because of
this
this.
role
Yeah.
in Superbad.
Yeah.
And even though she isn't tasked with the most interesting dialogue or the funniest sequences, she comes in and out of the movie,
And she's
and
great.
she gives it another sense of, you know, a lot of these actors in this movie, you know, their career is just starting, and if I believe this is her first movie,
I believe so too.
and like I said, it isn't a flashy role, but she really stamps herself,
Yep.
and I'll always think of Emma Stone in Superbad. I mean,
I know.
she's
It's first time a lot of people saw her.
right,
Definitely the first time I saw her, I think.
and she has really good chemistry with Jonah Hill.
Yeah, the home ec sequence is really fun.
Mhm.
Yeah, she has a lot of opportunity to shine in that little part, but like, yeah, she's a great choice for this. She's endearing. Everything at her house at the party is great. Everything at the mall the next morning is great.
Mhm.
And it's just again, much like Remember the Titans when you see Gosling pop up, it's like,
Whoa,
man, yeah, that's a star.
that's a star.
She doesn't know it yet, and they don't know it
They don't
yet,
know.
but
They don't know
like
what they have.
it's about to
Right.
pop off, and it's really cool. She's a great Lester Bangs winner. Her and Joe both really. But yeah, she's definitely more highly respected. That's for sure. This movie also has a great soundtrack. A lot of old 70s and 60s R&B, funk, and soul tracks. Rick James, stuff like wait,
Curtis Mayfield?
Curtis Mayfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of great songs pop up. It doesn't have a ton of them, and when they pop
No.
up, they're usually not at the forefront, other than the These Eyes party sequence, which we'll touch on, I'm sure.
Mhm.
But do you have a favorite song that appears in this movie, or a
Yeah.
favorite needle drop?
I would say I really, the movie is this kind of propulsive comedy where you're kind of thrown into it, and I would go with the song that starts the movie in "Too Hot to Stop" by the Bar-Kays. And just going back to the filmmaking, I love the choice to use the old Paramount logo in the
Mhm.
movie, or Yeah, I think it's Paramount or
It
Sony
it's
or
no, it's the old Paramount
I
logo
whatever
with
it
the
is.
the
Yeah.
woman, the torch,
That Sony, yeah,
very
yeah.
grainy and yeah.
Mhm. It's the Sony logo, and, like, another throwback to the '70s, and then you jump to this sequence where there's all the credits, and then you get silhouettes of Jonah Hill and Michael Cera dancing together, and I think "Too Hot to Stop" is just a really fun song, and it really does a good job of introducing us to the tone of this movie,
Mhm.
and it is kind of this throwback '70s hangout movie,
Yep.
you know?
The
Kind of
characters even dress like they're in the
they
70s,
are, and there
even though
is
they're
this
not.
the the hangout quality is reminiscent of something like A Dazed and Confused or An American Graffiti, and those 2 movies, those 2 soundtracks make those movies too,
Yep.
and this movie isn't entirely reliant on its soundtrack, but I just like
No.
that starting song, "Too Hot to Stop," and I like the filmmaking aspect where you have that bright, colorful silhouette opening with all the credits, and I think that's
100%.
a good start to the movie.
Both the start and the finish of the movie, movie finishes with that Curtis Mayfield song "P.S. I Love You." It's very great use of music to bookend it. It wouldn't be my choice. I have I'm your boogeyman
Mhm.
by KC and the Sunshine Band. It's the song. It actually plays briefly in the beginning of the movie, but it's a song that McLovin decides to find his confidence to at the party sequence
Mhm.
and dance with this redhead that he's been crushing on
Mhm.
the whole movie. And I don't know. I think of his dance moves and his weird little like
Yeah.
as he's going onto the dance floor, sup, McLovin.
Yeah.
He's just he adopts this funny persona that you really don't see the rest of the movie. And yeah, his dance moves are just infectious. And whenever that part of the movie comes on, I smile, and then that song is in my head for a while.
Before we get off of this topic,
Yeah,
there's one that just came to mind that I think is the one of the biggest laughs I get from any needle drop in a movie, and it's very short. It's when it's Big Papa by Biggie
I have that. When
at the adult
Jonah
party
is
scene where
dancing, yes,
Jonah's dancing with this mystery woman who he had no idea,
way
who
older
is
than him
drunk, way older,
and married.
and
Fiance, yeah.
fiance of
Sorry,
whoever owns the
a
house.
very bad guy.
Oh, he's
Yeah, bad
terrible.
news. Bad
Um,
news.
but yeah, I mean, big, and you could just tell. I mean, Seth has no idea what he's
What's
doing,
going
and
on?
yeah,
Yeah,
he's just dazed. And I just love that little needle drop. I think
yeah.
that's one of my favorite. Like, that's like a laugh needle drop. Like they knew what they were doing, putting that in, and that song has such a distinct sound and vibe, and I love it.
It's iconic, and
It is
it's the only song in the movie that's not funk, soul,
right,
or R&B.
right.
It's
It's somewhat
very
modern.
it's very consciously put in that weird part.
Hmm.
I also, as like a runner-up, I had "Bustin' Out" by Rick James, which plays as the three of them are on their
Yes.
the two of them, sorry, are on the way to the grocery store that Fogel McLovin works at. He emerges with this Pinocchio Aladdin vest,
Yeah, the best.
and in the background of that is "Bustin' Out" by Rick James, which is a great song, and that's a great track if you've never heard it. But yeah, um, what is your favorite scene? And this is something that you and I could talk about endlessly.
Oh
I
man,
have
there's so many to
there's so
choose
many
from.
great sequences.
I might have to do a runner up. I'm gonna.
Yeah, start with a runner-up.
I hope I don't steal yours, but I'm sure you have many other ones.
I'll find something.
I mean, you said it earlier. I think the These Eyes sequence
It's terrific.
when when they're at this adult party with these like you said, these like washed up 30, 40 year olds. Um Michael Sarah's character Evan is in a room talking to Becca, the girl he's crushing on, and telling her that they're on their way to the party with the booze, like it'll all be all right. And
Yep.
then a bunch of these guys who are either stoned or on
Cocaine,
cocaine or
or
drinking
about to do a lot of all of
come
that.
into this room, and he's the odd one out, and they're starting this conversation about how Jonah's character and the owner of the
Are
house,
about to get in a
Kevin
fight.
Corrigan, are about to get in a fight. And then they're talking, and we should say people like David Krumholtz and Martin Starr, mainstay
Yep.
character actors in the Apatow world, the Rogan verse, whatever.
Are part of this
And then they
clique.
eventually noticed Evan, and they're like, "Who are you?" And then one of them, the one of the coked out guys, is like, "I know you. You're Jimmy's brother, the guy,
You're
the
the
singer.
singer.
You're the singer. You're the guy with the beautiful voice I've been telling you guys all about."
Yep.
And all these guys jump on the bandwagon. They're like, "You need to sing something for us." And Evan, the quiet, unassuming Evan is like, this is his worst nightmare. Like, this is his
Yes.
nightmare.
It would be
He wants
many
nothing to
people's.
do with
Yeah.
this. But then he's peer pressured into singing "These Eyes" by what's the Guess Who, I think.
Yes. Yep.
And I just watched it this morning before I got here, rewatched it, and Michael Cera's performance in that scene. I mean, he's playing like he's trying to be confident in
Yeah.
his own voice.
Yeah.
And eventually, like, they love it, and it kind of boosts his confidence as he's singing. Like, they know the song and they're clapping or humming with whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
They're into the vibe. And oh, and then the moment when his voice cracks as he's getting in the high notes, and
Yep.
people are like one of the coked out guys is crying. He's like emotionally overcome with the
Another one is
song.
like doing the bass line for
Yep.
These Eyes, just every once in a while. Boom, boom.
Martin Starr is doing that.
Yep,
And
doing the
then
bass line.
they're all into it, and it's this like 2.5 minute, 3 minute sequence
Yep.
that just really works, and is one that I think I've seen the most on like a YouTube clip. I think I've seen that one the most. And,
100%.
holds a special place in
100%.
my heart for this movie.
My runner-up would be, just because of how many crazy improvs, is the introduction to the cops.
Mm-hmm.
The moment they're in the liquor store with McLovin and the clerk. Somebody's got an exam.
Yep.
Just all these crazy,
One-liners.
one-liners and improvs. We see some crazy names like Chingy, Rafe, Pax, the organ donor jokes, like looking for an African Jew in a hoodie.
Yep.
Just all these crazy things. The Eminem joke.
That's the one that
is
got
incredible.
Me this last time.
It's incredible.
Where Eminem, so he was circular, and then they show a picture. Rogan drew an Eminem,
just like an Eminem with a face. Which is like Marshall Mathers, the rapper.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, don't you know? He's like, what are you? He's like, I'm a cop.
I'm a cop.
Just all these crazy moments that I know out of context are just coming off as ridiculous, but it's really funny.
It's terrific.
It's a great introduction to those two, and much other than the These Eyes sequence, that's probably the one I've watched the most. I put that one on YouTube quite a bit.
That's one of mine too.
It's incredible.
And another small moment in that same sequence is they're eventually asking McLovin, like, "Who are you? Like, we got to get to you now."
Yep.
After interviewing the cashier of the liquor store, "Who are you? Like, we need to know who got punched." And they eventually are like, "What's your name?" He's like, "McLovin?" And then they repeat it back, "McLovin, huh? Just one name?"
That's badass.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they eventually ask how old he is. He's like, "I'm old enough to party." Like, so awkwardly.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Can we see your ID?" And then
yeah.
they get the ID, and it's a great piece of filmmaking in the movie where they're zooming in on McLovin sweating. He's so worried that they're gonna think it's fake. And then it goes into Rogan and Hader whispering and smiling about what they're seeing. And then eventually it just stops in its tracks. And then Hader looks down at it and looks at it, McLovin, and says, "You're an organ donor."
Yeah.
And that's the capper to that little scene. And I think that's one of the other big laughs.
Even when you're dead, they want to rip your heart out. Yeah. Then what would be your not your runner up here? What's your winner for best scene?
Ooh. Oh, I think that These Eyes sequence
that's your winner.
My favorite. I was trying to think of a runner up.
Oh, okay, for sure.
There's a lot.
There's so many. I'm looking through a ton of little notes. I have too many.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, other than the These Eyes sequence, the cop introduction, I really do like when they finally get to Becca's party.
Yeah, I
think everything with Jonah being the life of the party and telling the tale from the night and like doing his like reenactments, and Michael Cera drinking by himself to try to get confidence. Mm-hmm. I think everything from them finally getting to the party towards the end. I know that's kind of a cheating, but I think especially the sleepover that the two have at the end. That's probably my favorite scene. Mm-hmm. It's the first time where they both kind of like let their guard down and take the veil off, and let you know and let each other know how they feel about each other and how much their friendship and their love really means to each other.
Mhm.
And it bookends the movie in a great way. I'd
It
say
does.
that's other than the funny stuff. I love, you know, them just getting into the sleeping bags and having their dialogue at the end, and then
Mhm.
everything at the mall as well is just
Mhm.
terrific. But
I have my
your
runner-up. My
runner up,
runner-up. I
perfect.
just thought of it.
Yeah,
Um, so as they get to, you mentioned earlier, McLovin is walking out of work and they're going towards him, and McLovin is scared about the ID, but they're all scared about the ID. But then Seth, Jonah
it's
Hill's
like
character is,
hyperventilating.
I'm gonna go in and just get the liquor. I don't care. Like
Oh, that's a great.
we're not gonna
Yeah,
worry about your ID. And then the sequence plays out where he's basically daydreaming about different
he's fantasizing about
how this
is
might work.
could go. Yeah,
One of them is he gets all the alcohol. He goes up to the cashier and he buys it immediately, and he says he's 22 and he's like, "You sure
you
are."
sure are.
And then he pulls out the $80 bill, which lets us know
It's
that
a
this is
fantasy.
fantasy.
Yeah,
Like this is not real. The second one is he helps an elderly lady with her
for
groceries,
groceries,
and then she pays for his alcohol, and
and
they have this really good
wishes him
exchange.
good luck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then the third one, which is the funniest, is when, well, before we
Hope
even
Piggy
say
can
that, I was
run.
just I hope Piggy can
Hope
run
Piggy can run.
because he clocks the cop immediately when he walks into the store. And then the third one is he's about to he picks up a bottle of alcohol. And the filmmaking is really fun because then it, like, the camera pans up to the cop is like staring daggers
Yep.
at Seth.
So you don't have to do this.
You know what to do is never had a choice. And then Seth grabs the bottle of, it's the Gold Slick vodka,
Yep.
and he throws it at the cop. The cop catches it, then he throws it at the elderly lady. The elderly lady dies. You killed her.
She just dies
You
instantly.
killed her.
You killed her.
And then he takes the cop
The
takes
broken
the broken
bottle.
and slits Seth's throat, and then
Blood's
some great
everywhere.
like gore.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
And
That's
then it cuts to him immediately walking
Walking out.
outside. Like, you
Like-
never would have done it. There was a
like-
security breach.
jump cut.
Yeah, great
'cause
jump
he's just
cut.
walking out and looking like so scared.
Yeah.
And then that's the driving. That's a good sequence because it also is hilarious, but it also gets us to that liquor store
Where McLovin has to use that
He
ID.
has to.
He
Yep.
has to try the fake ID out for sure. No, that's a great sequence. I think I had a star next to it somewhere in here. It's just it's the grocery store fantasy. It's terrific. It's just there's a and it's needed too. It's the only
Mhm.
moment in the movie that's not grounded,
Oh,
and
right.
it really sticks out, and it works.
Right.
It doesn't overstay its welcome or go a little too crazy.
Mhm.
You know, um, you talked about peak. Your peak moment would probably be for McLovin, correct?
The peak career moment has to be Christmas Plus. And we won't go further into this, but just because he is so iconic.
Well,
and
I have a
he
different
hasn't
answer.
done better. Yeah, I want to hear yours because he hasn't had a role that's as big and as culturally relevant as this.
For sure.
And I think I wonder. Now I'm curious about what yours is. Yeah, go into
Greg Mottola.
Okay.
I think it's just the same thing. Much like McLovin hasn't been. I mean, Chris hasn't been given a role like McLovin. Greg hasn't been given a script like Superbad, and he probably never will get one like that again.
Mhm.
I think this is by far his best movie. I'm a Adventureland apologist. I like that movie more than probably 90% of humanity. But this is still his peak. I think Mottola deserves even more. You know, people don't talk about how well how well directed this movie is, which is great that you and I both hit on that early. It's really well shot. It's really well colored. It's really well framed. I mean, everything about it on a directorial level just works.
Mhm.
And I think Greg.
Needs
I hope
to be working more.
Yeah,
you know?
I really. That's what I was gonna say. I think Greg just he's right. He's right there. I mean, he's so talented.
Mhm.
And much like we'll talk about Pineapple Express down the line. Much like David Gordon Green
I was
directing
just about to
that,
mention this.
you get a good director, a really good director that's like looking at it from an artistic perspective, and you give them a really funny script they don't have to mess with at all.
Mhm.
You're gonna get a really well-made movie. And again, this movie's it's well lit. There's a lot of great natural lighting at times. I mean,
Mhm.
it's terrific, and I think you could go hand in hand with Greg and Chris. This was
Mhm.
unfortunately the peak for both of them, and God
Yeah.
knows what could happen a decade down the line. But Yeah, I think Greg is great.
Two things I want to touch off of the Greg Matola thing is one, Greg directed this. I don't know if we've ever talked about this. Greg directed a really good movie called The Day Trippers in the 90s, and that was his directorial debut. And it's a really fun indie, kind of all in one night movie, which I'm sure
Cool.
helped him prepare for Superbad.
Yeah.
And it has a really good performance from Parker Posey, Leah Schreiber,
Oh, wow.
Hope Davis, and Mira, which is on Criterion.
Oh, okay, cool.
There's a
I
Blu-ray,
had
and
no idea.
that's the first thing I heard. That's the first time I've heard of it, and I watched it and really liked it a couple of years ago. So if you haven't, if you watch Superbad and like Superbad, go check out his debut. And like David Gordon Green, Greg Matola is a really good director outside of this comedy world. Like he's just a talent.
Yeah.
You know, he's not reliant on good material from a Rogan
Nope.
or Goldberg or all the actors he's working with. He's just a solid director who I wish got more of a chance to, you know, I mean,
Spread his wings a
comedies are
bit.
dying a
Yeah.
bit, but
I
I
think
want
they're
him to
coming
get
back.
back to that indie,
Yeah.
you know,
What's that called again?
the Day
The Day
The Day
Trippers?
Trippers.
All right, so there's a little free ad for the Day Trippers, and I'll
Yes.
give my free ad for Adventureland since I'm a nut about it.
Mhm.
It's more of a coming of age movie as opposed to Superbad, which is just a broad comedy with coming of age elements. Adventureland is a coming of age movie with comedic elements. It's a little more grounded, I think. I love it. I think he has a great sense of tone, and there's still enough in that movie. Again, Hader it brings it in that movie too, Bill Hader.
Mhm.
But yeah, Adventureland is awesome, and I'm gonna force that to be an episode down the
Oh,
line.
I
I
would love to.
love that movie.
Adventureland's very good. And another thing I wanted to mention was recently listened to a podcast with Seth Rogen. He was on a podcast called Blank Check, and they were talking about
Oh, yeah.
the Big Lebowski. I think I mentioned it to you.
Mhm.
And one thing I didn't talk about with you was they were just talking about different times in Seth's career and different movies he's worked on. And eventually, Superbad came up, and Greg Matola did a lot to keep like the strong filmmaking intact, I guess, behind the scenes. You know, people like Apatow, who are producers, were telling Greg, like, why are you setting up a shot like this when it could be done way easier? Like,
Way quicker.
why are you worrying about this when we have to worry about the script and the character? Greg wanted to maintain a strong level of filmmaking, and it, like you said, it is well shot, it is well colored, the score is impressive, the soundtrack is like a lot of this works because of Greg's direction.
Yeah.
And I think that he is sort of the unsung hero of this movie. And I mean, he directed one of the maybe my favorite comedy of all time. And
Yep.
I wish he worked a lot more. And I'm glad he gave Adventureland a shout, though. That's a really solid follow up to this.
It is. Again, it's a much different movie, but great cast.
Mhm.
And it'll get talked about. But are there any other awards that you have in mind? Anything that pops in your head?
Well, I have no awards, but I just realized we haven't talked a lot about one of the key figures in this movie, Michael Cera. We haven't talked about Sarah enough, I don't
As a
think.
straight man, coming off of Arrested
Right.
Development, I think I mentioned this to you. I think that was like his college. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Playing the straight man. Most of his scenes are with Bateman
Mhm.
in that show. What a brilliant guy to learn how to be the straight character from,
That's one
and
of
to
the
do it with panache.
right. It's one of the more brilliant comedy sitcoms of all time, and it's one of our favorites. And what a training! Going to work with Jason Bateman, Jeffrey Tambor, David Cross,
Will Arnett,
yes,
uh,
Walter, what's her name?
Jessica Walters, rest in peace.
And so
Portia.
this came this came
Portia.
right off Arrested Development, that run, and he comes into this like
Quietly confident, though.
very quietly confident, and he's not totally formed as a performer, but his timing is impeccable. And he's kind of the middle ground between the really confident Seth and the uber awkward McLovin. And he's kind of the middle ground where, like, Evan is a guy that you'd probably like, be
yeah,
good friends with.
You would know
He'd
him.
be a really good friend. And he does a really good job keeping the Seth character in check,
Grounded.
very grounded,
Yeah.
and reminds him, like, dude, it's not just you and me. Like, there's bigger things to this. Like, the big talking point in the movie is their upcoming college experience.
Michael Cera got into
Dartmouth
Dartmouth.
with McLovin, and Seth feels
He got
very
in. He
insecure
got
about
into the
that.
state college
Yes,
where
and
the girls are twice as likely to give him action.
and they're about to splinter off from their high school experience, but like you said earlier, they're so codependent.
Other characters are asking about how they're gonna
Right.
do next year. Oh, you guys didn't get into the same college. The both women they're interested in ask
Yep.
them both about it.
And
It's like a
you can tell they're
divorce,
kind of like, oh, it's fine, it's
but
fine.
it's not.
Especially Michael Sarah, he's like, oh, it'll be fine. Like we'll be fine. Don't like
Say, "Don't worry about it. I'm
he
not worried
repeats
about
it
it
to
at all."
himself because socially he's awkward and he needs that kind of counterpoint in
Yeah.
Seth's character. But Michael Sarah, he is someone that I really have come to appreciate as an actor.
Oh,
To
yeah, he's
where
terrific.
I know he was a big person for you and our uncle Gus. Like he was a big guy who you guys
He's been around my whole life now, it feels
basically,
like, you
yeah.
know?
And he's been a little bit divorced from like the mainstream world ever since, like the Scott
Since
Pilgrims,
Scott, yeah.
Superbad. And he had a fun little turn in Barbie, but I want him to get back to some I want the broad comedy to come back, and I think that Michael Sarah is a big part of my appreciation for that genre, especially when it's tied to George Michael and Arrested Development.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
think he's a really special performer and
Very unique.
very unique and totally unlike a lot of comedy stars
Yeah.
in his era. He is incredibly unique, and I always love to see him and stuff.
He has something that just came out or is about to come out. I just saw some picture on Twitter. It was like him and his co-stars, and I'll have to
Oh,
look into it, but
he's in The Running Man with Glenn Powell. He's working with Edgar Wright again.
I didn't know. I forgot he was in that. This is not what that is, but like I think he's slowly working his way
Yeah.
back into it. I think he did his indie stuff for a really long time, and he really enjoyed that. I He did a lot of stage work too,
Mhm.
which is really cool. The actors that do stage work, that still do stage work, they're the most talented people still. Like
I
Tom
agree.
Hardy still does stage work.
Mhm.
Rest in peace, Philip Seymour Hoffman was still doing stage work. Ethan Hawke still does stage work. Like I think that's a really important part of the process, and I think it's cool that he's still into that. Oh yeah, hopefully he has a moment, and I think he does. I think he could be like a Jesse Eisenberg nominee. When
Mhm.
Eisenberg got nominated for Social Network, that could have been Michael Cera. I don't know if he would have gotten nominated. I don't know if he could have done that role to the same
No.
thing, but he can be in that type of movie. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
you could have seen him in
Give
like
him a
Blackberry,
Sorkin script. Give
Yeah,
him that sort of verve and
and like a
that
confident character. He's really
yes,
good
fast talking.
in that Sorkin movie where he's the gambler. He's playing Tobey Maguire
He's really
essentially.
Molly's Game.
He's not in Molly's Game very much. Molly's Game has its own issues at times, in my opinion, but he giving him a confident, like cool,
Mhm.
weird character that you don't get to see him explore. It's like give him more of that. The guy
Mhm.
can do any genre. He can do any character.
Yep.
And again, I believe that's true of him, of Jonah Hill, of Chris, of
Mhm.
Emma Stone. I think Bill Hader can do any character. Rogan has his type,
Yeah.
but he's really great in the studio. If you haven't seen his new show, The Studio, and he's doing different stuff in there. But what really makes this movie work at the end of the day is the directing and the performances. And this is chock full of talented actors. They're not just funny; they're
Absolutely.
talented. And they
Mhm.
take the craft seriously, and that you can see it. But yeah, in conclusion, I guess Superbad is just incredible. It's one of the best comedies ever made. It is very juvenile, very smart. It is very dumb, but very uh, touching and
Perceptive and touching.
perceptive and
Yeah.
aware. Uh, and again, I know a lot of people have seen it, but if you haven't, and you have the stomach for a very R-rated comedy, I think at the time this movie came out, it was like a top 5 most F words
F-bombs in the movie?
ever put
Yeah.
into a movie. I think it's slowly going down the list because of other stuff that's come out, but it is a very dirty, a very explicit movie. But if you can get through that, there's a lot to love, and there's so
Mhm.
many great performances and so many great moments, and there's so many great moments that we couldn't even touch on. Nathan and I could talk about Superbad for 4 hours. I really,
Could recite the movie,
yeah,
There
just do plot
we
point,
can't pick a
boom,
favorite
boom, boom,
I
boom.
mean, we picked favorite sequences, but the whole movie's a favorite sequence,
Tomorrow I could have a different favorite sequence.
Absolutely.
But anything else you want to say about Superbad? Yeah,
Well, this is just a special movie to me. I think it's maybe my favorite comedy of all time. Like I keep saying, I think it's one of my favorite movies. It's one that is good to share with other people. I had a couple people in high school that I told to watch this, and they love it too. My friend Joe, when I last saw him, said that he said he's watched Superbad more than probably any other movie recently,
Yep.
and
See,
it's
both
one that
Eli and Joe, isn't that it's like
you can
it's
keep
that type
going
of
down.
movie.
It's that kind of movie where, it's not a niche. Like this is not something that we're like, this is an indie, like only us appreciate and love this movie.
No, it's
This
pop
movie,
culture
like
phenomenon.
I'm sure on Letterboxd, the social media platform, like this has been logged like a million times, probably over a million times. And I think it's gonna keep getting discovered by younger generations. And
Yep.
you've gone to the fact that it is a raunchy comedy, but it really has a lot to say about just young people and the passage of time through high school.
Yep.
And I just was reminded of one thing I was going to mention. This movie, what this movie gets really right about the high school experience is, when you're in high school, socially, you're like, whether you're popular or an outcast, you're going to hang on to like 1 to 2 people throughout your whole life.
Yep.
And that's Seth and Evan to each other.
Yep.
And I like how, I mean, and McLovin to a certain degree,
Yeah.
and the girls they might be interested in. I don't. After the end of the movie, I'm not under the impression that they are going to be with these girls for the rest of their lives.
No.
It's probably very fleeting.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of
college is about to happen,
right. And that's where everything is going to change for these guys. But
Yeah.
they'll always have each other. They're always going to be friends.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a special, overarching thing that's attached to this movie.
Beautiful sentiment, not often approached, unfortunately,
Mhm.
especially between men.
Mhm.
Well, not that these are men; these are boys.
Mhm.
But again, this is from a male perspective, written by males. It's a very male movie, and it is very male in terms of how these two boys are viewing women and
Mhm.
how they talk about women at points. Mainly Jonah Hill,
Mhm.
but it
Well,
also
but in the
shows how
yeah.
these women are dealing with their high
Yeah.
school experiences. Again, it's not from their perspective, but it's not disrespectful, nor
No.
is it unwise in terms of how men and
Mhm.
women of that age group interact. And a lot of it
Mhm.
is just sexual attraction,
Yeah.
and it doesn't shy away from that, but it also has a lot more to say just about the human condition and how we treat each other and how people create these bonds and create
Mhm.
memories.
Well, another thing is these kids, they talk big games, especially Seth, but in the end, I think in a weird way this movie treats like those relationships with the girls are interested in pretty respectfully. Like there's not overt like raunchiness, and they don't take advantage of these girls. Like Evan
Has an
has the opportunity to
opportunity,
take advantage of this girl when she's drunk, when they're both drunk,
and she's pressuring him into
and
taking
he's
advantage.
stopping it and going
Yeah.
like, I don't want to do this. Like you're drunk, I'm drunk. This doesn't feel right. And then Seth
He's crass the whole movie.
Seth is crass the whole movie, but then when he's faced with Jules and
He's
telling her how he
very
feels about her,
loving and
he's
respectful.
very sad, and she somewhat rejects him
Yep.
after he tries to kiss her, and he kind of breaks down and goes like, "Look at you, look at me, like I could never get a girl like you." And
Yep.
they're broken down, they're stripped down
Yep.
of their overconfidence, and especially Seth.
Yeah.
Evan's not very confident, but they're kind of brought down to reality. Like
Yeah.
that's high school experience. That's high school relationship,
Yep.
and that is just something that a lot of other high school movies don't get right. Like An American Pie, or I off the top of my head, I don't know. I'm not coming up with any of their names, but other high school movies like this, they're not as emotionally deep.
No, they don't have as much to say, and they're not interested in saying anything. It really has to do, I think, with how how high you think your ceiling for this movie can be. There's a version of this movie that is a very safe, broad comedy, and thankfully they didn't do that. All the unsafe choices, probably all the unpopular choices from a studio head perspective, is what gives this movie its lasting appeal.
Mhm.
It really is special, and yeah, I guess we'll leave it at that.